Okay, excellent, everybody. Again, my name is Chris Behan. I'm the host and guide to this webinar today. Super excited to share a lot of very, very valuable information with all the dealers that are on the line today. We're going to go ahead and get this thing rolling here and do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. First, everybody on the webinar is in listen-only mode. So if you do have questions as we go through this, simply send us a chat through the chat box that you'll see on your screen, and we'll make sure that we answer those questions at the end of this webinar. And we'll go ahead and get things kind of kicked off. And we're going to be doing a deep dive into search engine optimization. As many of you know on the phone, this is a series of webinars that we're doing. And the first series, we kind of started off in search engine optimization. And we polled everybody and we said, hey, what would you like us to talk about next on the next webinar? And kind of overwhelmingly, people wanted a deeper dive into search engine optimization. So we're going to cover a lot of different things. We're going to have some fun on this call. We're going to give some things away at the end. So just definitely stay tuned. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Chris Behan. I am been involved in search engine optimization since 1994. So kind of one of the very, very first to start in this field. I founded a very large digital marketing firm back in 2006 and actually exited that company a couple years ago as well. I have done thousands of paid speaking engagements. I'm an expert in SEO, paid media, web design, conversion analytics, omni-channel marketing, and I've actually helped build the presence of thousands of different companies all across the country, the online presence. Generated millions of leads online. I even teach classes at universities like University of Tampa or University of South Florida on digital marketing and entrepreneurship. So let's go ahead and kind of get started. And again, we are going to be doing a lot of different things on this webinar, including a giveaway, but we're going to talk about technical optimization of your website first, which is going to include the internal link structure, the site architecture of your website. We're going to do a cache text demonstration, which we did do on the first webinar that we did, but it's kind of important to revisit it so that everything else in the webinar makes a lot of sense. We're going to talk about optimizing to the SERP, and I'll break down exactly what that means on this webinar as well. And then we're going to talk about how you generate content that competes within search engines, because anyone can write a page of content, but it does not mean that it's going to create the desired result for you. We're also going to kind of end this with talking about how do you adjust your website into better performance, which is actually a very, very tricky topic. It's the only one, in my opinion, that's a little bit of an art form. And at the end, we're going to wrap this up with a Q&A and a giveaway. This is what we're giving away. It's up to a $750 value. And it's really cool to be part of a monthly club. So we're going to either do monthly Omaha Steak Club or monthly Cooper's Hawk Winery and Restaurant Club. So very, very cool giveaway at the very end of this. Make sure to kind of stay tuned, and we'll give this away as kind of the last thing that we do here. So let's dive right into it. And this is something that I talk about pretty much all the time on every webinar I have ever done. Google's stated mission is to not confound and confuse you and force you to pay a company to somehow get you up at the top of the listings. It's simply to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And we're going to talk about kind of the information, the accessibility of that information, and the usefulness of that information. And we're going to kick it off by talking a little bit about technical optimization. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about technical optimization as it relates to things like duplicate content, or is your site secure using structured data. Your digital marketing company is supposed to be doing a lot of these things for you. This is kind of the very, very basic side of optimization. But I can also tell you it's the one that a lot of digital marketing companies lean on when you say, hey, what did you do for me last month? Well, I checked the site speed and I crawled it, and I updated your XML sitemap or your robot text files. All of that's great, and they should do that, but it's kind of a small part in the entire scheme of things. I mean, crawlability, we're going to talk about. Site speed is one of those things that's turned into a topic primarily because digital marketing companies send you reports about, hey, your website isn't fast enough. And the reality of it is most of those tools really don't do what you want them to do. The real question around site speed is it fast to the user? when the user is on your website, is it really quick to load? Is it easy to navigate? We are going to talk about in great detail the internal link structure of your website. So from a technical optimization standpoint, all of the things above that we better be doing. We know that this is important. It's kind of the basics of SEO. What a lot of digital marketing companies or people that are attempting to do SEO on their own fail to understand is the importance of your internal link structure of your website. So I'm going to share some examples of what that looks like, and I'll do my best to really put as much context behind it as I possibly can, because it is a little bit of a technical conversation that we're going to have here. So let's talk about understanding the internal link structure of your website. The first thing that I'll tell you is that your website is one giant voting system. And as you link to things or as you don't link to things, you emphasize or you de-emphasize that specific page within your website or that specific topic within your website. And what's even more interesting is there's kind of like an electoral college that's built into your website, if that makes sense. So winning votes from certain pages in your website becomes more important than winning votes from other pages in your website, because you have pages in your website that are certainly more powerful in Google's mind than other pages. So I know that was a little bit cryptic. I'm going to go ahead and break this down for you now. The first thing that we have to understand is what's called domain and page authority. So there's an organization out there called Moz. And what Moz does is it rates the power of every single website on the internet from a 0 to a 100. And 100 is the best, it's the most powerful, and 0 denotes a less powerful website. Now keep in mind, it's a ridiculously steep curve. So there's not a lot of websites that are 100 out there on the domain authority side of things. To give you a little bit of perspective, the average car dealership's domain authority is about 20, which 20 out of 100 doesn't really seem all that good, but actually at the end of the day, it's not that bad. To give you a little bit of perspective, the average OEM, so Ford, Nissan, Toyota, big manufacturers, the average domain authority of those websites is only about 80. So very few websites have a domain authority of 100 or even anything close to 100. You have to be a Toyota or a Nissan to even get to an 80. So as a dealership, you shouldn't be overly concerned that your domain authority is 20. It's actually a pretty powerful website. And the way that you build domain authorities is by getting good relevant links, which is a very difficult thing. And fortunately for the automotive space, not super necessary to be focusing on offsite backward link building. It's really hard to do, and it's just not that important if you follow the steps that I'm going to be giving you. The other thing that we're going to talk about is page authority. So domain authority speaks specifically to the value of your homepage URL. So nothing after the .com or the .net, just the main URL is what gets assigned to a domain authority. From there, you get what's called page authority. And a page authority is typically a fraction of what your domain authority is, but it is important to understand what it is and how it operates and what it looks like. So let me show you a couple examples here really quickly. Using this example, we have the home page at the top. So envision that this is simply the home page of your website. And let's say in this example, your homepage domain authority is 30, which is a little bit better than average for most car dealerships that are out there. And then what you see here is all of these other boxes represent pages, unique pages within your website that contain information. And if your homepage links to a page, and we'll just call it new cars, that domain authority of 30 bleeds down and becomes a 20, which is pretty normal. Because if the most important page in your website is a domain authority of 30, all the pages that would fall underneath that would obviously be less than 30. It's also important to know that your homepage is the most powerful page in your website, primarily for the reason of that it has the highest domain authority. Knowing that it's the most important page in your website, we have to use that page very wisely and essentially rank it on keywords that are highly competitive keywords. That's where we optimize for new car dealership, new car dealer near me, all of those really, really competitive keywords should have some optimization happening on the home page for them. But again, in this example, if we follow down kind of the left side, and these are all new cars in this example, comes down to a new cars, page authority 20. And then I link one time away from that, becomes a 15. Then I get a little bit deeper into the Camry detail page and it becomes a 10. And then as we go down a little bit deeper, you see it kind of bleed out and quickly become a very, very low page authority. It might not always be a 0, it might be a 1 or a 2 or whatever it happens to be. But you see that this link structure essentially gets away from the home page quickly and then undervalues all of these bottom pages that you really don't want to have undervalued. The goal in linking a website together properly is to protect the domain authority that you have and pull it down to as many low pages as we possibly can. So while this looks very organized, this is actually what we call a bleeding link structure, meaning your website is going to kind of pull all the power away from the home page and bleed it down lower into the website, making every page in your website a little bit less powerful than you would actually want it to be. To correct that, there's a lot of ways to correct that and kind of work different link structures through your website. We simply do what we call a one-back link structure. So this is the exact same link structure that we just looked at before, with one big difference, is that when I take a link from the home page to the new cars page, I link back to the home page very consistently. So I want to give back a little bit of the authority that I took from it by linking back to it. And if I use that example again, and I go down the left-hand side on new cars, the Camry, instead of, that's a 20, now it's a 15. As I link down again, it's a 10. As I link that again, it's a page authority 5. And the reason we're able to keep that page authority together is because I'm returning a one link back to the previous page. So the link structure of your website is so important. And it's probably the biggest thing that's misunderstood by most digital marketing companies, frankly, because they haven't done the research they need to do to understand how you control domain authority and page authority through your website. The goal in doing this is to bleed down some of that page authority through these pages, give some of it back, but allow you to go even deeper with the link structure and the pages that you put in your website while still emphasizing those pages. Another example of this, and this is a topic that a lot of the more advanced people on this call might be familiar with, is there's something called siloing and topic clustering. I'm going to jump back one slide. This is actually siloing. This is a good example of how you silo content together. And I'm someone that loves to speak in examples. So in this example, I'm going to talk about Wikipedia. We all know how well Wikipedia ranks. And when we think about what's on that website, there's a lot of very good content on that website, but it is siloed together. So if I want to learn about George Washington, there's sections about his childhood, about his personal life, about obviously his politics, his time he spent as a general. All of those things are siloed together. And that's what we want to be doing in these specific examples, because what it tells Google is, wow, look how good this section of information is on their website. It's all about Supras or Camrys or Tacomas or whatever the example might be. So if we look at this silo again, this is a new car silo. And let's say, I'm going to look at Supra and I want to push my Supra listings in search. I want to make sure that I rank everywhere for anything related to Supra, because people tend to travel for that car a little bit. There's a lot of different miles. There's a car culture associated with that specific model of a car. So in order to get this one to rank a little bit heavier, we have a domain authority of 30, which pulled down to a 20. We sent a link over here. But then what we would do, and one way of really building the importance of your listings, is to do a clustered topic. So you might have this page for your main Supra page, but then you link over to an articles page. Well, maybe there's 3 articles about the Supra, or maybe there's 10 or 20 or 50. Whatever the number might be is almost irrelevant. But in this example, I took all of these pages and I linked them back to the most important page that I wanted to rank. And this, theoretically increases the amount of page authority of that specific page because I'm linking to it more consistently than other pages in your website. So I know that this is kind of like a very high level topic, but in my opinion, past the content, it's the second most important thing to get right in your website is understanding how to change the rank of specific pages by clustering topics or building on an internal link structure that emphasizes important pages within your website. Another example of that, how we use these things, is what we call a root back. So a lot of you that are customers and we write all your content for you, we might have a goal of saying, look, they really, really want to rank on Toyota dealership and they want to be number one in the Atlanta market. How do I go about doing that? Well, I might say, well, here's the homepage. The homepage links to a page filled with articles. And these are just two examples of those articles. If my homepage is the page that's optimized for Toyota dealership Atlanta, what I'm doing here is I'm writing an article about a hybrid versus a full electric car, and I'm talking about the new car dealership in Atlanta. And instead of linking it back to the articles page, I take this page authority and I try to kick some of it back to the most important page in my website that's optimized for these specific keywords and phrases. So, this tactic, when you do something like this, is built to help you rank on very competitive keywords. I mean, if you're having a ranking problem and you're wondering why I don't rank on, let's just call it OEM plus dealership or dealer, the most competitive keywords that are out there, kind of the ones you have to rank on, it could be that you're not using your homepage correctly first, or you're not returning enough links within your own link structure back to the homepage. One more example of this is what I call a topic back. So again, we have the homepage at the top, we have an articles page. And in this example, I'm trying to get my main used car page to rank more highly. So maybe out of the articles page, I write a page that's, how to buy a used car at the lowest price. And instead of linking this page back to the articles page, I use and leverage this page authority to link over to the main used car page, which maybe this would have been a 15-page authority, and now it's a 16 because I keep pushing links to it. So again, I understand that this is kind of a higher topic, but this is a really, really important thing to understand, that as you link to things in your website, you either emphasize them or you de-emphasize them. So if you put yourself in Google's shoes for just 1 minute, and Google crawls your website, they save all the pages in your website. We're going to talk about that in a second as well. Google basically says, well, I have to click 6 times to find this page of content about a Toyota Corolla on your website. You buried it in your link structure. And if you buried it, maybe you don't think it's as important as some pages that are linked to right out of the homepage, or maybe you're 1 or 2 clicks away. So when you think about it that way, it's pretty easy to understand that when you bury pages, they tend to not rank because you buried it, you de-emphasized it. So controlling that link structure is really, really important. And this is a great conversation when we get to the end of this presentation, when we talk about how you should be adjusting pages effectively, because sometimes you don't even adjust the page that you want it to rank. You simply link to it a little bit more consistently than you had previously. So one big problem that I've discovered in pretty much every dealer website that I've been in is that you have a lot of what are called orphaned pages. And what an orphaned page is a website that is essentially unnavigable through the link structure of your website by a user or by a search engine. Let's just call them a robot or crawler, or whatever you would like to call them. In Google's case, it's called Googlebot. So when you have pages that are not part of your link structure, a couple things can happen. First, you can look like you're intentionally trying to spam search engines. So back in the day, back 15, 20 years ago, every digital marketing company on the planet, or most of them, were trying to game Google's algorithm or MSN's algorithm back in the day, or Yahoo's algorithm. They were trying to do things to maybe give you a result that your website didn't necessarily deserve. And one way that they did that is they put up hundreds of pages that were not connected to the website's link structure. They got them crawled by just submitting a sitemap to Google, but they were there only to generate traffic. They weren't useful to the user. Now, one of the reasons that this is such a big issue for car dealerships is that your used inventory often gets just disconnected. The page doesn't get deleted and redirected appropriately. You just stop linking to them. So be very, very mindful if you have a lot of orphaned pages. I mean, there's programs that tell us how many orphaned pages you have, if they're hurting you to some extent. If you're wondering, hey, I just can't seem to rank the way that I want to rank, this is one big problem in your specific vertical that could be keeping you from ranking. So be very, very mindful of orphan pages in your website. So now we're going to transition a little bit into organic search and what Google actually cares about when indexing websites. You know, we talked about the second most important thing, which is the link structure of your website. Now we're going to talk about the most important thing as it relates to your website, which is the content that appears on the page. And what I'm going to do, rather than telling you what Google cares about, I'm going to show you what Google cares about. And this is a process that anybody can go through. So there's no special software installed here. Anyone can go through this exact process and understand exactly what Google is looking for. And in this example, I'm not even using like a hyper competitive area. I don't know exactly how many people live in Rolla, Missouri, but it's probably less than people living in Dallas or Houston or Los Angeles, places like that. And the first thing that I'm going to point out to you, and I have this big arrow that points out to it, is I search Kia Rolla, Missouri, and it says of about 190,000 pages. Now, that number is just critically important. The first thing for you to understand is what that number represents is the total number of saved pages in Google's index that contain the words Kia Rolla, Missouri, or MO, excuse me. So even in this specific example, there's 190,000 pages competing for that specific keyword. And the competing or the competition of it is critically important because, quite frankly, a lot of people can do things that technically make your website more optimized than somebody else's, but it does not mean that it will compete within search engines. So to sum that up, there's 10 spots on the first page, and you need to get one out of them. You need to get one of those 10 spots out of the 190,000 people competing for that keyword. If I were to change the Rolla, Missouri to Dallas TX, that number is probably going to jump up into the millions, which still, frankly, isn't that many, but it is somewhat competitive. Also, keep that number in mind when we talk about adjusting websites a little bit later in this, because that number will tell you how competitive a keyword is to some extent as well. So let's go ahead and break down this specific listing. What we're all looking at is what's called the SERP, or Search Engine Results Page. It's just kind of Google's way of talking about how they serve these results, and you'll hear me use that word throughout this presentation. So, the first thing that I want to back up and talk about is that when you conducted that search at Google, you were not surfing the web. Okay, a lot of people think that they conduct a search, Google instantly goes out, looks at the trillions of websites that are out there, or web pages that are out there, finds the best one and sends it back to you, which is not what happens. What actually happens is Google crawls your websites, they index every single page in your website, and they have literally saved a copy of every word in your website, every page, every image, every alt tag, anything you can think of. Google is literally rehosting your websites in data centers that look exactly like this. This is one of their data centers. I think at last count, there was 27 or 30 of them all around the world. So we all host our websites. We all pay a couple $100 a year to do it. They're literally rehosting trillions of pages in their own data centers. And when you conduct a search, you're simply accessing one of their data centers. So back to this listing right here. So new cars, did new cars Rolla, Missouri. One of our customers is the first one that pops up. And what I'm going to kind of point out here are those 3 dots that appear right there. Some of you have probably never clicked on those dots. Some of you probably click on them all the time, but it is really important to click on the dots to see how Google looks at your website. So when you click on that, this little box pops up and it says, Kingdom Key was first indexed by Google 10 or more years ago. By the way, the age of your domain name is really important. If you have a very old domain name, anything from the early 2000s, late 90s, mid 90s, your website will rank much more quickly than somebody with a brand new website. So this website's been indexed about 10 years now. And down here, you can see a little button that says how search works. What's interesting is when you click that button, it's going to cover a lot of what I'm covering with you today. So Google literally tells you what they're looking for, but sadly, a lot of people don't know that and they never click on that button. In this example, we're going to click on the button that says cached, and cached is obviously means saved. And when you click on that button, this is what pops up. So it looks just like Kingdom Kia's website, with one exception of this bar being at the very top. And it says this is Google's cache version of kingdomkia.com. It's a snapshot of the page, in this case, of the page that has appeared on September 12th, 2022. So this shows you this is the last time Google was at this website and the last time they saved that website. So if you're having indexing problems, there's ways of knowing when the last time your website was indexed. What we're going to do here, though, is we're going to focus on where it says full version, text only version, and view source. The first thing that I'll point out, it doesn't say backward link only version, doesn't say blog only version, doesn't say code only version. It says text only version is what we're going to click on. And when you click on that, all of the graphics on your website disappear and only the words remain. So this is the first bit of proof that we know that Google cares about the words that appear on the page above everything else. And it is completely inescapable. And those words need to be about who you are, what you do, and where you do it. And what's critical about this part is the what you do and where you do it. So, who are they? They're a Kia dealership. They're in Roland, Missouri, and they're serving Jefferson City drivers. So they have done a very good job of being descriptive in their headline content. We're going to talk more about how to write content on this call as well. But it is about who you are, what you do, and where you do it. And if you leave out where you do it, you end up attempting to compete on a national level, which is a very, very difficult thing to do. So again, as we look at this, we know that this is what Google indexes. In fact, in this example, I'll prove to you again that this is what they care about. Is I highlighted, kind of halfway down under quality used cars, SUVs, and trucks for sale. Here we stock late model used cars for sale from Kia. I highlighted that entire sentence and I took it over to Google, typed it into the search bar, and then this website comes up first, obviously. Okay, I'm not suggesting that people ever search something that long, because for the most part, they do not. The point of this demonstration is to show you that the words or the results come from the words that appear on the page. To really drive that down, talking about duplicate content, which is a pretty big problem in the automotive space. I mean, Google looks at your content a little bit differently, but you don't get the credit you're looking for when you're duplicating content. So it'd be very easy for us to say as marketers or as people that own dealerships, well, I sell Mercedes, I'll just go to Mercedes' website, I'll take their content and I'll stick it on my website. One of two things will happen when you do this. Most of the time, the first thing will happen, which is nothing. You will not get penalized, but you will not gain new listings. You will not get new traffic. It's an exercise in futility because you built out a website that no one will ever see. In extreme cases, Google could actually penalize you for duplicating content. And they know really, really easy. Every major update that Google has come out with in the last 15, 20 years has been very focused on content, and duplicate content was a huge piece of that, along with the usefulness of that content as well. And they know. So if in this example, I took that first sentence that's highlighted in blue, starting with injecting, ending with the fuel economy there, and I searched that in Google. So you see that up in the search bar right there. And what this is showing me is that there are 1,670 pages that have that exact content that appear on their website. So the question is what's useful about duplicate content? Now, what we don't see is the website that I just showed you ranking. Okay, we see JD Power ranking first. And what's also interesting about this exercise is that normally, not all the time, but as a rule of thumb, they're listed in order with how it was indexed first. So JD Power is probably the first one to write it, then Fletcher Jones, then BT Lincoln, then Effler Sport. They're categorizing and then organizing these to say, well, these people came out with it, and JD Power is probably the only one that should be getting credit for this specific set of content. So duplicating your content will not work. And if you're working with an agency or you're doing it internally, you want to have that conversation. You want to be saying, hey, where's my content coming from? Because I just went and copied and pasted content from my website and it came back as duplicate. Now, on certain pages within your website, Google will understand. Like they know that, certain information just is what it is. It cannot be changed. Fuel economy, specs of the car, trunk space, anything technical specifications. I don't want to say that you get a pass for it because that wouldn't be quite right, because it would be better if you went through the process of rewriting it to make it unique to you. However, you're not going to get dinged for it the way that someone's purposely going out and trying to abuse Google's algorithm, essentially. So do not be duplicating content on your website whenever possible. There really are just no shortcuts. Okay, duplicate content, doorway pages, iframed content. This is an actual example that I found recently of iframed content. And when you look at this, first, Google doesn't read iframes. And it's an iframe because it has this little scroll bar, and this was kind of built into the footer of their website. So Google already doesn't see that iframe content. And it's kind of a good thing that they don't. I mean, if we look at that bottom example, where you're Huntsville, Alabama, new and certified pre-owned, Kia dealership near Madison, Decatur, Athens, Scottsboro, Gurley, Brownsboro, Coleman, Fayetteville, Harvest, Legacy Springs, New Hope, Normal, Owens Cross Road, and I cannot pronounce that last one. It's very clear what this company's trying to do. Okay, I mean, that in its purest form is spam to a search engine. They said, let's jam a bunch of words in there because we know that's what Google indexes, even though it's not indexed in an iframe, and see what we get out of it. This is not how you go about optimizing a website. This is actually a company out there selling this as a service right now. So if we look at this bullet, unhelpful content, which by the way was the focus of one of Google's last updates, how is that content helpful? So just know that when you're creating content and you're building out your website, there are absolutely no shortcuts that you can enact that will get you there quicker on a long-term basis. You have to earn your way into those positions. A lot of people have asked me over the years, well, how big should my website be? And I'm going to answer it a couple different ways. The first way I'll answer is that if I owned a car dealership, I would have the biggest website in the universe, past the universe. I would make it a point to have something that was so big, so powerful, because I know how many leads come from your website. I mean, done properly, you're looking at hundreds, if not thousands of leads a month coming into your website at a very, very low cost. So your site should be as big as you can possibly get it. And it should be aligned with your marketing goals. The more cars you have, the more marketing you should be doing. In a very specific sense, though, I'll also answer it with the example that you see on the screen. So the number of keywords and phrases that describe who you are, what you do, and where you do it, and we're going to talk about this, times the number of territories which you believe people will travel from to come and visit your organization, your dealership, essentially equals the number of pages that are in your website. Now, a lot of you probably think my website's already 200 pages in size, 300 pages in size. The reality of it is it's probably much, much larger than you actually think it is. So I'll show you how to find out how big your website is right now. If you go to Google and you type in site : so SITE, no space, : no space, and then your URL minus the www and the HTTP, this little box will pop up and it'll show you of about 940 pages. So in this specific example for Gainley Toyota, this is public information, anybody can do this. There's about 940 pages in this website as it sits right now. So as you go through this after this, I encourage you to find out how many pages in your website, and then also know that it's going to list them all out for you. So you can literally thumb through all of these pages and see what your page titles look like. This is your page title. What your meta descriptions look like. This is the words that appear underneath the page title. It'll give you a really easy way to audit your website to make sure there's not too many things that are duplicated or kind of off topic. Just to give you a little bit of perspective, I did a site colon for a bunch of other websites, Sun Toyota, which is near me, Furman, which is near me, almost 2,000 pages in a local car dealerships, 804. Sarasota Toyota, close to 1,000. West Shore Honda, 2,200. I threw in CarMax just so people can see what, aggregators do and directories do. They have about 251,000 pages in their website, but the reality is it's probably notably more than that. So people build out big, powerful websites for a reason. It's hard to make your website too big as long as the content is valuable, kind of evergreen content or important content to users. So let's talk about how do we write content that is helpful and will actually help you rank more highly in search. So we're talking about competing within search engines now, which again is what it's all about. You have to compete with the websites that are out there to gain these new listings. And we have to start by identifying relevant keywords, which is not a new conversation. We're going to have a little bit of it, but then we're going to talk about something completely different as well. So how do you start by identifying relevant keywords? The first thing I would say is stop using keyword tools, or only using keyword tools, I guess I should say. Everyone runs those keyword tools. We all understand what basic keywords we should be going after. We have to understand other things besides what the keyword tool just spits out to us. We have to start by optimizing to the SERP. Again, the search engine results page, the two things that you see up on the right there, those are SERPs. And we have to consider the SERP features if we're going to be really, really good at optimization and get all the traffic that we can possibly get coming to our website. We have to have the basics covered. So when we talk about our core keywords, and this is what you want to be tracking really closely. You talk about your core brand keywords first. So the make and model that are modified. So are you Toyota, Nissan, Acura, Honda, Kia, whatever your organization is, you have whole keyword sets that go along with that, along with OEM brand and brand modifiers. And modifiers can be things like dealer, dealership, car lot, things of that nature. You need good model related copy, obviously, as well. You want to make sure that your corporate brand is reflected properly on there. When you do your TV, your radio, your print, whatever it might be, always be including your corporate brand, because that's the differentiator between you and the Toyota dealership down the road or the Nissan dealership down the road. You have to make sure that you have your corporate brand keywords really, really in order, and make sure that you have them covered, because that protects all of your offline investments when you've done a good job doing that. Obviously service related keywords, and then your core non-branded keywords. So when I have conversations with dealers and I'm showing them a benchmark that maybe we put together for them, I say, look, all of your make, your model, your service related keywords, your corporate brand, that's your existing market. Okay, that's the market that you guys, the marketers there, the ownership there, you went out and you helped build this yourself, and you run TV and you run radio. That's the brand or the market you kind of have to some extent. The core non-branded keywords, that's new market. Okay, that's you trying to sell more cars than you sold yesterday, the day before, the week before, the month before, the year before, whatever it might be. You want to be focused on core non-branded keywords. And you guys, everyone on the call knows what these are. They're new cars, used cars, pre-owned cars, hybrid electric cars, body style, SUV, truck, extended cab, whatever it might be. All of those are non-branded keywords and new market. So quite frankly, the top part is pretty easy. The core brand keywords. You want to make sure you understand it and you have it documented. And we'll do that for you, actually, if you would like us to. The core non-branded one is more tricky. And making sure that you rank on those is how you grow your dealerships. Again, it's how you sell more cars than you sold last week. So what we'll talk about now is what I call SERP identified keywords. And maybe you should even say SERP identified opportunities to some extent, but we're going to focus this on keywords. So how do we go and we stay in line with what Google is doing? The first thing that you want to make sure you do is you want to make sure that you're optimizing for Google Instant, okay? So when we've all seen this, we all start typing in there and we type in Acura in this example, and I start typing in and then Google gives us a whole bunch of suggestions that we could just stop what we're doing and clicking on. Now, the previous webinar, we talked about how Google's trying to control the user and control the conversation. This is one of the ways that they do that. Since they're trying to control the user and the conversation, as optimizers and as marketers, we have to conform to that. We can't tread our own road. We have to conform to where they're pushing people. So in this example, and we do all of this, we literally sit there and we say Acura A, Acura B, Acura C, and we see what keeps populating in here. So Acura Integra, which is a little bit of a car culture type model, and that plays out really quickly. So Acura Integra, 2023 Acura Integra, Acura ILX, which is a little different, Integra 22 Type S, Type R, for sale. These are all things that you want to make sure you're optimized for. Like, how many pages could I possibly write about the Acura Integra? Probably 10 pretty easily, just looking at this one example. You know, I even typed in Acura V, so Vigor comes up. Now, this part gets really cool in my opinion. I'm a marketer. I geek out over this stuff. I hope you geek out with me on it. But you want to know who you compete with? Go to Google. You want to know how people perceive your brand? Go to Google. Research what you see here. So clearly, Acura versus Lexus is in there for a reason. Google doesn't make these things up. They are sampling what people are typing into Google and then coming up with these suggestions. So should we have a comparative page that compares Acura versus Lexus? Probably. Same thing for Honda? Most definitely. You know, Vigor, VIN lookup, some of these obviously are things that we don't go down those roads, but now we know what brand Acura is most compared to. Lexus, Honda, and Infiniti. And I understand the irony in one or two of those. You know, the next example is just Acura E, electric car, electric SUV, emblem, not much there, electric. You can kind of see what we're looking at this point, conform to how people search. Another example of that is just Kia. So I typed in Kia, near me search is still a big thing. You want to be going after it. But, you know, kind of more quickly, they lost some of the more meaningful things and went right into locations, Tampa, Sarasota. But you now know that those two areas are big as it relates to Kia. You know, Kia H, hybrid models, hybrid SUV, hatchback, hybrid cars. No idea why that's there, but people are searching it. So it's really, really interesting when you understand what you're looking at, how you can begin to use that data and how using this data could even affect how you message offline in your commercials. You know, some more examples of that. We all know related search. We conduct a search. These related searches appear at the bottom of the SERP. Why did they appear? Because this is what Google is connecting. So in this example, you know, Toyota dealership near Clearwater Beach, a Toyota dealership near me, Palm Harbor, Largo, Brooksville, Seminole. I can pretty much guarantee you there's big, highly advertising people in all of these areas because of how this SERP was served. Acura, NSX, SUV, dealership, who makes Acura? You know, that question actually comes up shockingly a ton through all of these things. The confusion as to what brands are actually connected and or not connected. So look for keyword opportunities in all of these related search queries that are out there as well. You know, people also ask is probably the best one that's out there if you really want to, you know, understand the brand and the perception of the brand. People also ask, in your vertical really didn't exist 5 or 6 years ago. And now it is a really, really big part of a homepage of a SERP in Google. So is Honda better than Toyota? Is Honda cheaper than Toyota? You can almost see the buying process unfold here. Is Honda Korean or Japanese? You know, why are they closing a factory? So that's probably driven by some type of news cycle. What Toyota is the best? Is Toyota still Japanese? No idea why they're asking that question, but it continues. Is Nissan Korean or Japanese? Is Nissan as reliable as Toyota? All of these are opportunities for us to be writing content and coming up and answering these questions for people. People also ask is one of those things that gets into Google trying to control the conversation. Because when we think about how we engage with people, also ask, when you click on that button, you don't go to a website, it loads the answer directly in Google on their SERP page. So again, Google trying to control the user and prevent people from clicking on your website. So the answer to that is be the answer to the question. So let me show you how you begin to do some of these things. The other part to think about, though, people also ask, is that this is the gateway to like spoken search, to in-home automation devices, to people querying their device, whether it's your cell phone, Siri, Alexa, whatever it might be. The answers come from the people also ask section. Now, I want to be clear, there's not a ton of traffic coming for automotive dealerships yet from spoken search, but it is coming and it is growing, and it is something that you want to be prepared for. And this is something that you would want to start very quickly. So how do we begin to rank in these different SERP features? Let me tell you kind of how we write content and what's important to get to compete within search. So we're going to start with organic search. So back to that new cars Rolla, Missouri, and how you would write content for specific keywords and phrases to rank on the free side of search. So the anatomy of an optimized page. First, you want it to be very, very scannable, because people don't read. We do understand that. I shouldn't say people don't read. A lot of people don't read. They like to scan and look at the opening paragraph, maybe some of the bullet points, things of that nature, and then move on from there. So it is very important to use headlines on every single page in your website. I prefer what's called an H1 headline, which is the biggest of all the headlines. 2 gets a little bit smaller, 3 gets a little bit smaller. Don't go lower than a 3 from a headline perspective. The H1, 2, and 3, that refers to a little piece of code that makes that big and bold. But to that big and bold statement, why do we make things big and bold? Because they're important, and we're trying to place emphasis on it. And if we think it's important, we make it big, we make it bold, Google thinks it's important. Now, there's a balance to this, okay? And we always want to live in that balance and never look kind of ridiculous when we're writing content. But when you look at this, used car, Morrow, Georgia for sale, there's nothing about that headline that is not searched. Every single word there is very highly searched, and it is right on point with what we want to be doing. Use keywords in your headlines. Don't put words that are not searched, that are platitudes or a marketing platitude in a headline, because then you're going to rank for something that nobody searches. Keep them very keyword focused. Use your primary keywords appropriately. So here's what that means. This page, I'll call this 170 words, 175 words of content. I have the keyword used in a headline. I have it used in the very beginning. I have it used down here, and then I have it at the very end. This is what's called a full spread of keywords, meaning this page is optimized for used cars, Morrow, Georgia. And basically from the very beginning to the very end, I have used that keyword. Now, what you don't want to do is say, well, if you used it 3 times over 175 words, maybe 6 times is better, because it's not. It just begins to sound like you're keyword stuffing the content, and you cannot do that. You have to use it very appropriately, and it has to sound very natural to a user when they're writing it. Now, you also want to make sure that you're using your anchor text properly as well. So in this example, I have used cars as an anchor link and new Toyota vehicles as an anchor link. Now, why do I do that? Well, we just listened to how you should be linking a website together and how we create emphasis by linking to certain pages as well. So this page is linked back to the main used car page, because that's the page I most want to rank. I'm using some of the power of this used cars Morrow page and propping up an even more important page for this. Why did I make that decision? Why? Because Morrow, Georgia isn't that big of an area. And I can, from a competitiveness standpoint, I can afford to take 2 links from this page and prop up other 2 pages knowing that this one will still rank because it's a less competitive keyword. Another example in all of this is you can layer in some additional keywords as well. Now, you don't want to go nuts. The main thing that this page is optimized for is for used cars, but you also see how I mentioned pre-owned cars. The reason I was comfortable doing that with this page is because Morrow, Georgia, again, is not that competitive. Used cars is the most competitive keyword for that area. Pre-owned is significantly less competitive in almost every area. So I thought, let's just go ahead and try to get pre-owned cars to rank as well from this specific page. So it's okay to do things like this and be descriptive with the page. Don't just think about the one keyword you're optimizing for. Add in maybe one or two far less competitive keywords to that page as well. Blogging is something that a lot of you are doing. And in most cases, I would tell you to stop blogging. And I know that is very counterintuitive because so many digital marketing companies have told you to blog. Okay, my background is that's almost 30 years now of digital marketing. Crazy. It's coming up on 30 years. And I know why digital marketing companies started to tell you to blog, because they knew you had to have content, but they didn't have the means to create you that content and write it to the level that you needed written. So they said, hey, let's tell them to blog. That's a great idea. Well, is it? If I'm looking for a new car, is my first thought I would like to read a blog about a new car or a new car dealership? I mean, maybe, but probably not. I'm probably going to search for used car dealer, new car dealer, Toyota dealer, Chevy dealer, whatever it might be. That's probably where I'm going first. Okay, the problems with blogs is that it is the wrong answer for the right problem. So they know you have a content problem. So they tell you to blog, and you have 750 words of content on there, which most people are never going to read. And it's about comparing the trunk space between a Toyota Camry and a Honda Accord, which, whatever, some people might want to know. I personally don't. I know most people don't. The bigger problem, though, is that when you think about a blog, it's going to have a very high bounce rate. One of the reasons that it's going to have a really high bounce rate is because in most cases, they're not geo-modified. So they're trying to rank you on a national level, and you really can't operate on a national level in most cases. The other part is they have very low conversion rates because they're very top of funnel. I mean, I want to make sure you rank on everything that is highly actionable. The ready to act user is what it is all about. And to say that blogs are very top of funnel is a very big understatement. They are extremely top of funnel. A lot of the times as well, that really just messes up your metrics. I mean, if you look at your analytics and you go in there like, oh, I have a bounce rate of 70%. If you look at it at the high level like that, you have to know that if you dig down into the page bounce rates, individual landing pages, and look at those bounce rates, you're probably going to see that your blogs are driving up your bounce rate and driving down your conversion rates. So I'm not anti-blog, but a lot of you have a lot of work to do before I would recommend that you get really deep into blogging for organic search. Optimizing for people also ask those questions follows that exact same process that I laid out for you with the content. The one big difference is the page needs to be way bigger. So not 250 words, not 300 words, typically 750 to 1,200 words on that page of content. And you want to use 4 to 6 headlines opposed to 1, maybe 2. And those headlines should almost mimic what you see in here as long as they're connected. So obviously we wouldn't do that. Why is the Honda factory closing? But we might answer, and I don't know the answer to this, but yes, Honda overall is rated at this level and Toyota is rated this way. Maybe we're more affordable. Answer the questions, put your spin on it, your twist on it. But when you put these pages up, you will begin to rank for people also ask, and you will have a presence in voice search, which again, isn't the biggest thing in the world right now, but it is getting more and more important as we go through this. Proper page title creation. I'm going to cover page titles and I'm going to skip meta descriptions because most of us know what they are. There's 2 schools of thought on it. Some people write them, some people don't, but they have almost no ranking variable at this point, but page titles do. So your page title is what appears in Google SERP. It's that blue line that you see right there, right below your URL. They should be clear, concise, and highly scannable. They should describe the content that is on the target page. So if I click on this page, that page better be about used cars in Tampa, and they better be about Toyotas. If it mismatches, you're going to get a little bit of a ding associated with it. Your geo, you need to geo target these things. So this is what we call the forward position of the keyword. This is really good. Used cars for sale near me. I don't know if you need to say near me, but it probably won't hurt you. Tampa, Florida. You need to have the geo follow the keyword very, very precisely. You're trying to mimic exactly the key string that people are typing directly into Google. They can't exceed 60 characters. It'll just start dotting and the user will not see it. And you do not want to overstuff your page titles with keywords. And again, that is something that digital marketing companies did 15, 20 years ago because it worked. Google changed their algorithm because they knew they were being manipulated. So you cannot keyword stuff your page titles. And let me show you what that looks like a little bit. So these are good page titles. Volkswagen dealer, Tampa, Florida, Volkswagen branded. On your dealers, on your homepage, you want to have your very core keyword. And that is an example of an extremely core keyword. It's a Volkswagen dealer. They're in Tampa. It's a major market. You can't add other markets to that very easily. And then they repeat their name, Volkswagen branded. Perfect. It protects their offline advertising because users can quickly connect the fact that this is the one that I heard the TV spot for, the radio spot for, and they're a Volkswagen dealer. It's a very good optimized page title. Same thing here. The pipe, that little line in the middle there, people use pipes. I'm personally beginning to get away from them a little bit. But again, it's good. Used cars, Tampa, Florida. Used Toyota for sale near Tampa. Slightly repetitive, but not too bad. This is what you don't want to do. First, your homepage page title should never say home. And it's a very common mistake. We all know it's the homepage. Google doesn't need to know. The users don't need to know. And you wasted 4 or 5 characters. New, used, and pre-owned. Well, I get, pre-owned is searched separately and used is searched separately, but they are the same thing. And then you can obviously see that the page title is too long because it goes in the ... This is not how you construct a page title. And this is really how you don't construct a page title. I live in Clearwater. Okay, I know it's around here. It's Clearwater, St. Petersburg, Brandon, Sarasota, Oldsmar, whatever. I would love to stick all of those in there and pull in people to my dealership from those page titles. But if you ask for too much, you get nothing at all. And they ask for Tampa, 1.5 million people, Clearwater, 750,000 people, Sarasota, 1.5 million people, Florida, that is fine to have in there. You can't stick every big city under the planet into your page titles. Now, if you're in a little area with a whole bunch of little cities, you could probably get away with putting 2 or 3 of those page titles in there. But know that if you're in major markets, if you lump 2 major markets together, you're either going to get one of them or none of them. So be very, very mindful of your homepage page titles and really all of your page titles for that matter. We'll begin to wrap it up, and then we're going to give away that thing here at the end and take some questions. We're going to talk about how do you adjust existing pages so that they rank higher. I tell people everything that I do for the most part is a science. There's a right way, there's a wrong way, and we have to care enough to do it the right way. Adjusting a page gets to be a little bit of an art form. So I'm going to do my best to kind of talk about what I look at and the decisions that I make. And I hope this makes sense and that you guys can kind of follow along with this. So making page adjustments. You start by identifying the page that ranks highest for the keyword that you're most trying to rank on. So let's say that you're trying to rank a page for, Acura NSX, one of their high-end top performance pages. And you conduct a search in Google and you're looking through all of the different pages and you can't find the page. So if you can't find the page, what I would do is type in Acura NSX and then the name of your dealer. Now it's going to serve a lot of pages from your website, but the page that comes up first is the one that's most likely to rank on that specific keyword. And it's the one that you should consider adjusting if that's what you're looking to do. Now, before you just, here's the things you want to look at before you adjust anything. Is the page title correct? So if you look at the page title, thing that we just talked about, and you say, I have the keyword in the forward position, I have it followed by city, I believe that is right, and maybe you leave it. Is the content that you click on in line with the page title? So you want to make sure that those two things match. So if you look at the content and say, well, I'm very happy with my page title, but the content could do a little bit better job of matching. Considering adding a sentence or two in there that helps you kind of connect the page title or the content a little bit more closely with that page title. That's one good adjustment that you can make. Excuse me. Are there enough pages in your website for the topic you're trying to rank on to even rank on it? So sometimes a keyword is so competitive that it needs more than one page. It's that siloing example I gave you early on in this presentation. You might have to write 2 or 3 other supporting pages and then link those pages back to the page that you're trying to get it to rank if you can't diagnose anything that's wrong with that page. Look at the content on the page. Do you have header tags? Do you have the right keywords in there? Are you using anchor links? Are you using too many anchor links? So if you look at that page that you're trying to get to rank and it links away to different pages in the content 5 or 6 times, then you're de-emphasizing that page. You're saying this is kind of a landing page and all of the information you're really looking for is somewhere else. So you have to be mindful of those things. Do a comparative study and say, is my website worthy of ranking? You know, I earlier in the thing I talked about the number of cached pages. If you look at a page and you're like, man, it's perfectly written, the page title is perfect, the anchor links are perfect, I have supporting pages, I don't know why it ranks on page 2 and not page 1. Sometimes the best thing to do is either write additional pages and link to it or let it sit. Let it grow up a little bit and let it mature. Let other people make mistakes in front of you so that your page will ultimately go up. Sometimes the main thing it needs is time. It needs to be watered, and that's what you got to just let it sit there and do. You know, if all of the factors that we talk about above are out of line, and I've kind of already talked about this, and everything seems right, but you really want a keyword, just keep writing new pages about that topic that are article style, maybe a little bit longer, and then keep linking back to the page that you want to rank. Silo it, make it look like it's really like a very specific kind of expert topic driven thing. You know, legacy pages, as we wrap this thing up here, a lot of you have old legacy pages on your website. Legacy is a way of saying outdated old inventory in a lot of cases. If you have a lot of legacy pages and you still think they're good pages, go and update the page a little bit and get it to re-rank. Google still goes and crawls those pages, and we want to show them that there are changes happening on those pages. And actually, the more you change it, the more frequently Google comes back. So do little updates, change out an image, add an alt tag, add a headline, do a little content addition, whatever you might do. If you have a lot of very low value pages on there, you could consider deleting some of those pages. But what I would do first is go to Google, do a top landing page report, find the pages you're thinking about deleting, and see if there's any traffic going there over the course of a year. And if there is, try to repurpose the page instead. If it's such an outdated page, maybe it's a model that no longer exists or you just can't have anything to do with it anymore, then go ahead and delete the page, but then redirect that page to another relevant page within your website. There are a lot of legacy pages on dealer websites. And if it's really old information that never gets updated, it actually can hurt your ability to rank on keywords and phrases that you really do want to be ranking on. So a quick recap, you know, the big thing that I'll leave you with before we do a very quick Q&A, because I know I'm a little bit long here, is that you cannot rank on something that you have not written on. So if you wonder why you're not ranking, it's probably because you're missing properly optimized content. It needs to be original, readable. You want to be first to market. So again, not duplicate, about who you are, what you do, where you do it. And you continually want to be adding content to your website on a monthly basis, at a bare minimum on a monthly basis. You want to be adding content to your website. it will pay you back tenfold when you go through that process. Now, one thing that we are doing, and we're going to go ahead and launch a poll really quickly, and then we're going to do the giveaway and or a quick Q&A and then the giveaway. And we're going to launch a poll. If you would like us to do the heavy lifting for you, so what you see on the screen is a sample benchmark. We will tell you where you rank for your branded keywords. We will tell you where you rank for your non-branded keywords. We will tell you what your domain authority is as well. I know I talked about that a little bit quickly. And if you're wondering what your domain authority is, we will tell you. So just simply click on the yes button on the survey or poll question that we have up on the screen, and we will simply email it over to you. We don't harass you and go nuts on you or anything like that. It's a very, very straightforward report. It'll give you the page where you rank, the position on that page, and those little DNR lines right there does not stand for do not resuscitate. It stands for does not rank in the first 5 pages. So we will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So go ahead and just hit yes on that box. And we're going to go ahead and close the poll in 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and close the poll, Rebecca. Thank you very much. And we're going to, just quite quickly tell you that this is a series. So the next topics that we're going to be talking about is we're going to start getting into paid media or pay-per-click. And we are going to start having some design and conversion conversations as well. Because, you guys are omni-channel marketers. And you have to have websites that's set up for omni. We're also going to talk about Google business profiles or Google My Business, the map listings as well. And if you have suggestions, just let us know. We'll be happy to cover those things as well. So we're going to take maybe 1 or 2 questions. I know I saw some come in, and then we're going to just jump right over to the giveaway since I am a little bit long. Rebecca, do we have any questions that came in? I know I saw 1 or 2 come in.
We have a couple great questions, and I'll start with this one. One of our attendees asked, my website has a large number of pages. How often should I be updating these old pages or legacy pages, as you mentioned?
So, with regards to legacy pages, there's 2 things. First, say yes to the benchmark, because you have to know where those legacy pages rank within search engines. So you don't adjust a page to just adjust a page. You set it up and say, okay, well, it slipped down to page 2, it slipped to page 3, and then you make an adjustment. But I would say if you could go through on older pages and once, twice a year, do very small updates to those pages, nothing that changes the topic of the page. You can't kind of per se move the cheese on Google. It has to still be about what the page was before, but make those adjustments kind of 1 to 2 times a year is what I would be doing. Do we have any other questions, Rebecca? I think we have time for 1 or 2 more.
We have 1 more. Should I use outbound links for my content?
No. So then let me give some. It's a hard no. But let me tell you why it's a hard no. An outbound link basically means that there are links on your website that then you link to somebody else's website for the information that your website lacks. Now, if it's a tool, that's one thing. Like if you're using a tool to get trade-in value and things of that nature, that's completely different. But if you are referencing other websites on your website, what you are telling Google is my website lacks the information that this website contains. And you are essentially not only are you bleeding away your own domain authority and your own page authority, you're giving it to the other website. So I tell people it is really, really rare that you want to link away to somebody else's website. You want other websites linking to you when you can, but that's a little bit of a different conversation, and it's incredibly hard to do, and again, much less important for you guys that to be doing outside link building. We could probably do 1 more question if we would like to, and then we'll go ahead and do the giveaway.
I'll read the last question. When you say we need to consistently add content to the website to rank, but you said not to focus on blogs, then what types of content should we add?
So, and I'll clarify that a little bit because it's a great question. The first thing when I say is don't be focusing on blogs, don't call it a blog, first of all. So like a lot of the times in the URL structure, it'll say like sampleurl.com/blog/Ford versus Ferrari. I'll make a movie reference. So then when you put it in that folder structure, Google instantly knows that it's a blog. What you want to be focusing on are pages. Make sure that you have really good vehicle detail pages. Make sure you have really good, excuse me, supporting pages around that. So you can have blogs on your website, but I would kind of pull it away from that blog style format. Have call to actions built into it. Have a lot of pictures of the vehicle that you're trying to promote in there. You know, answer questions specifically around specific vehicles, around the interior, the exterior, the wheel options, whatever it might be. There's a million things that we could be writing on before we blog or even put it into that kind of blog style format. Because I'm not sure who answered that question, but I would challenge you, go in to your analytics, look at your blogs and look at the bounce rate and the time on site and number of pages visited off of those blogs. And you're going to see that they will typically underperform all of the other pages in your website. So, but that is a great question. Thank you for asking it, because it actually helped me clarify a little bit something I probably should have talked about before in there. Keep it out of that blog URL structure for those specific purposes. So I know we're a little bit long. We're going to kind of hop into the winner here. Again, we're giving away subscription to Omaha Steak. So you'll get this every single month, or Cooper's Hawk Winery. It'll be your choice. We will follow up with the winner. Rebecca, I know that we picked the winners at random. Do you have who that winner is?
Yes, I do. The winner for today's webinar is Dan Ferguson.
Cool, awesome. Well, Dan, we will follow up with you. I believe we have your information. We will follow up with you and figure out which one of these two options you would like. And we look forward to having this kind of get out to you on a monthly basis as well. At this point, this does conclude the webinar. I hope that you found it very informative. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or a suggestion that you would like us to cover, simply visit our website, give us a call, send us an email, and we would be happy to cover those topics for you on upcoming webinars. Thank you very much, and we appreciate your time.